You're listening to the Unreasonable Fridays Podcast Network.
Go ahead, stand up, stand up, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AddSpace. I'm your host, Aaron Freeman, but with me, the actual host, the CEO, the CFO, the owner, proprietor, lead designer, head therapist, travel czar, and office architect, Bacon. At least Bacon, how are you?
Wait, when did I become the office architect?
And you-
Wait, what? Hold on. What does the office architect entail?
Well, what does your office look like? Where are you recording right now?
The living room?
Office, home office. And I assume you were very meticulous in how you designed your home office, right?
There is a very small section of it that is meticulous, and the other is a disaster. It's actually kind of funny to see the difference.
Oh, I assume the disaster is part of the overarching architectural design
No.
influence.
No.
Many different influences from many different regions and eras of architecture have influenced that mess in your home office.
I am not France.
Kind of like a Marco-Prussian type of like a brutalist look to that side of the desk there.
No, it's just a disaster because I'm incapable of throwing things away.
I know, but like,
or I'll bring something out, like my makeup. I brought my makeup tray out,
right.
and it never has left, and it's taking up a spot that is bothering me greatly. I'm gonna just throw this entire half of the desk away.
Right, exactly. Architectural decisions. Congratulations on your new position. And with us, we have Jeffrey Rousseau, who's been here now so many times that I will spare you the overwhelming list of names and titles and just hand you the floor.
I mean, I think you should do it because of formalities. I like when you
I was just like, you should do it so he could be like, don't do it again, because that shit was hilarious.
You know what? I think you guys might be onto something. Let's see. What does it say here? What does it say? What's the official documentation? Because you're officially documented. It's part of the architecture. The writer, social commentator, thought leader, observer, activist, creator, game critic, author, and speaker, Jeffrey Rousseau is with us live on the show today. Jeffrey, how are you?
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. I am, always learning, and I'm here. So it's gonna be super quick, and then we'll jump into like what we're really talking about. So like, as somebody who's actually like protested for Palestinian support here locally, I'm just here to remind people, like Angela Davis has said and continues to say, these things aren't difficult to support and understand. You do not have to necessarily be an expert. When my friend and I were out there with Jewish folks, Arab folks, Latinos, Black folks, folks of different genders protesting, we weren't being anti-Semitic. So obviously there's no need for that. When people show support for oppressed people, it's just something that's a long standard tradition. And what I would behoove people to think about is that look at what's happening to people whose voice support and what they tend and what backgrounds they tend to be of, as well as they're facing repercussions. And also what our president said while staring at the camera, right? So this apparatus called the USA is so many things, but mainly,
Babies shouldn't be murdered.
I
feel like that's simple.
Yeah, definitely. But what I wanted to say was, no, that's true. But really what To echo what Bacon said, it's just that I think there's like inflection points where you just got to step back, look into things, understand what caused things to get here, and how people justify collective punishment for a population, um, matters of a massive death toll. And I'm gonna tie this into games. I'm good at this, so hold on. So stick with me. So obviously, a lot of people across many different industries, what have you, have taught support, showing support, have asked for people in positions of like power and with platforms to just take the opportunity to talk about these things, right? And the thing with the games industry, you probably noticed that there is a letter that was going around with people asking, Jeff Keighley in the Game Awards if a statement can be said, right? And so far now, I think it's like over 2,000 people have signed it, some of the future class. And the thing with that is, I don't know if he will. He can very well just not do that. But also, I think it's important, like why people are asking him to that. Just things to think about. Also, um, if you don't know things, that's fine. Every day is a great day to learn, and also we should understand that there's a lot of distractions that come in the form of whatever it may be to stop us from taking any kind of political action. And it's very likely that I may protest again locally here with the comrades or do other things because that's how I'm choosing to do things. You don't necessarily have to do that unless you don't want to. It could be monetary support, but that's what I wanted to say on that. Because when Aaron asked me, it's like, I'm just thinking about these things because there was a time where I really wasn't really active on the Discord. It wasn't because I don't like y'all. I do. It's just that I was just like, okay, well, I don't do well with the whole. It's not I don't do well. I don't do the whole I'm sad at the world burning kind of thing. Like my therapist and I have recognized that I'm very much like a person that like has to understand things. And like I told Aaron, and I actually did this. It's just I read and I read and I read. I protested. Then I wrote. Right. That's just how I like, do these things. But anyway, I'm rambling. We're gonna talk about the video games. But the only reason I mentioned that is because
you're not.
This is why you see people talking about things.
You're not.
My bad, dog. Go ahead.
You're not rambling. It is important. What?
Sorry, continue, Aaron.
No, I was gonna say that that's actually the process, folks. You're talking about your process of learning, and you took a moment, took some time to educate yourself, and then reached a decision, and then participated. And to ask that of people is not much, and to discuss it in detail is not rambling, as that bit gets skipped often. We tend to yada yada that in each other, so it's good to hear. Oh, you say, Bacon?
Sorry, continue. I'm having that ADHD thing where I have like the no mixed with bipolar, I have no impulse control, so I'm like no, continue.
Oh yeah, well then please, by all means. Also, hold on.
No, continue, because I will just keep doing it.
But yeah, Bacon, you were saying something?
So what I was saying is sorry, now that you brought that up, it's just I'm now focusing on it. Sorry, we took a brief moment because somebody is jamming outside of Jeff's apartment, and that shit is hilarious. This is somebody who's got like probably super like modified the entire back of their car and are gonna be real sad if they get if somebody even bumps the back of it.
No, I can feel that shit in my
off
chair.
one of them speakers.
I can feel that shit in my chair. That's
Right.
Hey, living in a black neighborhood in Miami,
I was like, this is some nigga shit.
Yeah, I'll freely admit I was taken aback by the length of it. So it's just someone is just parked and testing out their speaker system because it is Friday night. So it's one of those things where this is fair. when I lived in Trash City, we used to not record on Friday nights because this is what would happen. So I forgot, because I'm in Texas and it's just more space. So I forgot that this is one of the reasons why I don't record on Friday evenings and Saturday evenings.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that. Yeah, maybe going forward we shouldn't do that, because that's a regular thing, by the way. Like, I've been playing on my Switch, and then I'm just like, oh, it's that one person. And I'm like, oh, it's that time, yo.
Right. So I understand.
They're basically out there with the "Hey baby" for like a
Yeah, listen, and it's fine, and we got those. I get it. We have those, like, there. Yeah, that's one thing about living in Austin is, like, there are places where people take their machines so that people see their machines, but usually you have to go to the place and they are there with their machines doing whatever their Autobots and Decepticons do. They've prepared it for Friday night, so I'm not mad at them.
Arizona was just as bad, because Arizona was known for car shows, because like in southern Arizona, it's there's no humidity. Like, it's just
Right.
dry, which is great if you have a car hobby.
Right.
It means that bitch will never rust.
That's exactly it.
So
Here. That's exactly it.
You see all of the custom cars. I have seen every version of an El Camino that you can imagine. I have seen every fucking like Transformers-esque version of an El Camino that could possibly exist.
Yeah, my favorite bit.
And they all be bumping. I don't know how or where.
in one of the it's a very police thing that happens here. Is we have the car. People will like when like Target's closed, there's a big parking lot. They'll just have cars drive around, just circle, do whatever, do donuts out there, and the cops will come and break it up. And then everyone driving away from the cops will cause car accidents. Otherwise, and then they report all these car accidents as like these city takeovers and all this stuff. And it's always the cops chasing these people away caused the car accidents. Otherwise, they were just doing donuts and listening to music and then they were gonna go home. But and I'm just like, how police state of you to cause these car accidents and then report it like these people are actively driving cars into hard surfaces? Because you're chasing them around.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
We were talking about Palestine.
We were talking serious stuff.
We were talking serious stuff.
And I will say this. I say this every fucking time because people be like, I swear I'll get to games. I'm like, this podcast is called ADD Space. Anything that is a nerdism falls under the purview of this fucking podcast. And guess what? That like activism can be a thing. Like activism, politics, world events, current. If you think we have not stopped and talked about important things about that, you would be fucking wrong. That's why we are here. So I'm grateful you brought it up. And I will say that, like, especially with like stuff like this, people are just gonna have like different ways of processing. And there are, you know, I don't feel bad about like being like sad about watching like the world burn thing, because I think that's a very normal like response, especially after like all of the shit that we've been through. And like I know every generation has been through a lot, but like also like millennials and Gen X's and Gen Z, we have seen a lot more than what I think we were both like anticipating or what was expected or the people acknowledge. Because like even our parents' generation, like I think we like to think of that like, oh, they, you know, because they had access to these things it was better, but they also had different issues. Like our parents grew up with like the way that our parents grew up with racism is much different than the way that like we are growing up with racism. And so there's also been the idea of progress and that we're better and that people are better. And right now what we're seeing is international law falling apart. And so things that like were supposed to be like signs of like good universal things that were agreed upon post World War II actually don't mean anything. And I feel like having that reaction is very normal. Because again, like it's what is happening is conflicting with information that we had.
Right.
But also like, and I think even though it is a complex situation, I think we can find like smaller, non-complex things about it. Like you can want for decolonization and you can want for peace simply just by being like, I don't want more bodies. Like that's a very, very simple thing, right? Like I don't want more bodies. Like I'm out here, like I don't know about the situation. I don't know, but I don't want more of this. Like something needs to give, like something needs to happen. And what the path that it's on isn't going to, it's going to just lead to more bodies.
Right.
And so like I feel like that's you know, a really simple framing, right? But I also feel like it's an okay simple framing. Um and there is also the like, if you want to know more, here are these sources. And I think there's also like a trying to be careful about what sources are, because like even with the Israel-Palestinian conflict right now, and I really hate saying conflict, but like I don't really have other words because it's all bad. I'm like, conflict just makes it sound not as bad as it is.
Right.
like there's full genocide happening here. With what's going on over there, like there's AI images that are being used. Like there's so much fake information, and it's really hard to find accurate information, like even through the search engines, because the search engines are incorporating AI and it's fucked up the algorithms, which is something that I've been having, and I know how to find information. But just like
Yeah.
losing my shit.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things too, where like people are just like looking at it and just be like overwhelmed, but also at the same time don't want whatever's happening.
Right. Yeah. I think in those cases, not in those cases, but it's certainly like a product of the times right now of the things we have to keep in mind. What keeps me hopeful about a lot of things is that through collective power, people like working together, like, you know, people do build networks of people whom vet sources and things like that. Like I'm very careful with what I'm reading, who's this from and what have you, and like
Oh, I know you
who's
are.
this coming from and stuff like that. Yeah, I try to be, but sometimes it's just like I don't know about this, so I'm gonna just take my time and look. But my general rule of thumb is like, okay, I I'm pretty much following what like I'm trying to follow what Black activists did or have been doing for decades, right? Ones who are trustworthy, right? And it's like, but even then, I'm just like, okay, I'm making sure I'm not just gonna retweet anything willy nilly or just read or just cosign or whatever, right? But anyway, long story short, collective power is an amazing thing.
And has historically worked.
Yes. Um, so yeah, however you choose to be involved, you'll know you're doing the right thing is when you notice that you're joining people to do something, put out a statement, whatever it is. Um, and also like as far as actions go, like over time, whatever you decide to do
And
or
and
learn.
an action can be as simple as like contacting your local representative and screaming at them while you're also
Yeah.
just screaming at the world burning.
Right.
That
Right.
is it, that is actually in, like, it's one of those things where people like are like, oh, I'm just like a voice, my voice doesn't matter, but like every phone call that you do, like every like letter that gets sent in, like that's all counted. Those are all counted, and they are not ignored. That stuff actually like becomes like things that form platform that like influence platforms during election times. So like it's one of those things where it's just like it's really easy to feel like, oh, my voice gets lost, but like your voice is a dot of information that affects real things and affects things close to you and far away from you.
Yeah. Well
Mostly
said.
piggybacking on what you were saying.
No. That was well said. That was well said. I don't think nothing else needs to be said.
I was about, yeah, for me, the hopefulness usually it's I don't it's less hopefulness and more of like I really like history. Um and the way that like history works is like it's like in waves. So if
Mhm.
you think about it as just um like there's a lot of progress that happens, and then some of that progress gets swept away, but there's still progress, like it's still better than what it was before, and then
Mhm.
more progress comes in, and then some of that progress gets swept away,
Mhm.
but it's still building on the previous foundation. So like it's one of those things where it's just like things slowly get better. It's not, is it enough? Like, I mean, it's never enough. There's always improvement.
Mhm.
But it's never as bad as it was. And
Yeah.
it sometimes the bad can still be really bad, but it's different and it's not the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And the great thing about now is that there's there's resources available, and people have made efforts like just one that just pops into mind. People Make Games has a video about this. Like if you look it up on YouTube, I would recommend that. It is it's very straight to the point. You'll be more well informed watching it if you're not sure, or if you just want to be more informed. Like that's a great place to start. But I think everything's been said about that, unless Aaron has anything to add. Not to put you on the spot, big dog. I don't know if you were waiting or not.
No, no, nothing. I just wanted to give you guys the floor, or more so, there is only so much. There's no reason to have someone come and repeat what you said, and then come repeat what Bacon said, because I was going to say what Bacon said, but it sounds better coming out of Bacon's face because they're the CEO and CFO and proprietor of the program. So having them being the face of the show speaking up is critically important, kind of like Mickey Mouse speaking up on behalf of Palestine, for example. So it's just more meaningful in that way. Little Captain America getting on the microphone much better than, Falcon, who's me.
Wait, did you just call me Little Captain America?
I called you straight up Captain America and called myself Anthony Mackie.
You don't want to be Captain America.
So
Why are you making me a white man?
no, the black one is Anthony Mackie, and that unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I mean.
Can I be comic book Falcon?
In my head, I maintain that Aldous Hodges replacing Anthony Mackie in every single Anthony Mackie role would improve the quality of every single movie Anthony Mackie was ever played in, ever, including Falcon. Aldous Hodges would kill it as fucking Falcon. He would be so beautiful and impactful and so beautifully black, and
that's a handsome man.
That's a beautiful individual with a lot of fucking
educated man.
Bro, I'll accept being called him.
Bro, listen.
That's a glow up for me.
In that Black Adam movie, he carried so hard as Hawkman. Like, the idea of Hawkman is silly. Hawkman is a silly character. He has gone on record as saying there are 47 versions of this character. This is bananas. And he fucking carried fucking Hawkman. Shout out to Aldous Hodges. Apologies for calling you white. But you're still the face of the program. So your words mean more. Anyway, we have a program.
Yeah. Oh, right. We do have a program. So
program?
tying back to games. The reason why I'm here is because I wanted to talk about the layoffs that happened across the year. Are happening. Yes, right. Because now we just entered December. We don't know how many more there are.
Can we just have like a special, can we just have like a moment to just say fuck you to anybody who does layoffs or mass layoffs right before the fucking holidays? Like, there's a special level of hell for that, right?
It's interesting because
it's literally for taxes.
That right. It's so we're talking about by my professional estimate, like I've lost count how many stories I've written across the year regarding this, but I think it's probably, I'm gonna take a wild guess, like it may not be 10,000 jobs that may have been lost, like people who lost like we're talking about like 10,000 people, but it probably might be close to that because the number that's estimated is off because like hard numbers weren't provided by a good number of companies. I personally think that by the end of the year, if more don't happen, and who's to say that they might not, but it might be at 10,000. So we're talking about and that's why I wanted to ask Bacon and Aaron what you both thought before I ramble. But we're talking about an industry that makes billions of dollars, and all these companies, and I'm talking mostly from like perspective of like larger companies, right? And you've had all these layoffs, and people have mentioned, well, Embracer did a lot of that, and I'll talk about that specifically as well. But it again is just like you're talking about an industry that's just like short 10,000 people, this right? And you have to sit back and really think about that. It's just like I cannot fix my lips and say it's been a good year for games because that is not true for the people who's worked in it. I myself cannot say that because I would laugh at myself. Like I do not believe that whatsoever. Like granted, this year has had more like high rated games and yada 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 yada. Like I think I don't know. I think I even wrote a report about that. But it's like to me that doesn't really matter because all these people were at work. And the thing is, stuff's getting more expensive. Housing is going up. Salaries are not going up. And we're talking about 10,000 people without a job. And it's been very weird for me to see that after this I'm opening up for you to give your opinion. But to me it's been very weird to like get a report, see that people have been laid off from a studio, and then throughout the year I've seen something along of this cycle. It's like it's been reported, I reported, or I look into it, someone publishes, I read it, and then I see people giving out their grievances, other people saying they're sorry, and then people doing a combination of like, well, we're hiring here, and just seeing that on loop throughout the year. It's been very, very um I won't say surreal. It's just very odd because obviously a good number of people have to be like automatic with that because that's just the reality. But to me, it's just like this is why like the career in a games industry as like on the US side is that I think it still hovers. The average career is like what 5 or 6 years. I think I checked last time. It's reasons like this why it's short.
It's
So
like 3 to 6.
okay.
Yeah, it's like it gets iffy. Aaron, do you have thoughts?
Um, I don't I don't think it can be a good year for games when the actual job is so volatile. Like that's the thing. I guess I would want to get a confirmation from you, Jeffrey. Is like so. It seems like you're working on a game. Some whoever is above you has deemed that this game is to sell way more than it would logically ever sell. And when it does not sell as much as it would logically ever sell during a recession where everyone else is getting fired from their job, no one has money. So when you sell a reasonable amount of this game, then it is considered a failure because the initial projections were so far off base and out of touch of reality that there was no way anyone could possibly. There was no way that punishment would not be levied on, air quotes, punishment not be leveled on these developers for failing to make a quality product when, from the outset, the projections of it were created and were so outlandish and out of touch that there's no, it's almost like, so like, I remember when I was looking at like Callisto Protocol and they were talking, I was reading about some, I said like, I think it's like, I forgot the name of the publisher. They said they expected to sell about 3 million. Yeah. They expected to sell about 3 million units. And I was like, 3 million units of a brand new survival horror IP a month before Dead Space comes out? 3 million units? And I think they sold less than 1 million, and then the team got disbanded. And I was like, from the moment I read that in like April of that year for a game that came out in like November, I was like, this is not going to be good. And I was like, I cannot imagine the level of stress that must have you under for being a game developer, which is just an intense job anyway, to then essentially just kind of be dragged out to the guillotine, where there's no like from the moment it's announced that the people who hold your jobs in their hand have no idea what's supposed to happen. They're not connected to reality. What can you know what I mean? Like what, and then that type of, it's like, it can't be good if there are thousands of people working under, tens of thousands of people working under those conditions specifically.
It's worse than that, actually.
What do you mean?
The general way that things work, like it's gotten a little bit more stable, like depending on what company that you work for. But, and I mean that extremely loosely, but generally how it works is when they're making a game, they hire a bunch of people with the intention on laying everybody off when the game is done. That's the game industry.
Fully.
Every game.
Oh, so the projections are just words to grease the wheels for mass layoffs.
Like that is standard game industry practice.
Also crafted.
You hire a bunch of people to make a game with the intention of laying them off.
Oh, so
every game, almost the entire staff is laid off. Retaining staff is weird. So there might be some publishers or companies they'll keep writers on staff, right? Because like the writers will produce the next game, right? But like but like all the small writers, like, so you have like the head writer, right? They're not doing all of the writing. They have like a team that works underneath them.
Right.
That team, most of that team is getting laid off.
Yeah. So then
the art directors, they have teams that work under them. Those teams are getting laid off.
So then, I have a question then.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. So
Yep.
then, so I'm wondering then, so when you work on a project that fails, air quotes, does that affect poorly on you going forward? Because there's like hiring someone to lay them off.
Really?
Okay, I was wondering, because it's like there's hiring someone to lay them off.
This is also where NDAs get really fucky too. So like there's a lot of people that get hired on for games that we never see. So, but they're also under NDA. And so that means when they're looking for jobs, they'll be like, there's this idea that they can't talk about the project. Now I'm gonna tell you, and this is a thing that like you'll see it on this was a big thing on game devs Twitter and adjacent. There's like a huge call. They're like, listen, people who just got fired, I know there's a lot of marginalized folks of you. I know you think you're under NDA, and you are under NDA, but your white colleagues are finding ways around that. I'm not going to tell you how, but I'm going to suggest you go do some networking and figure out what people are saying about their work to get around NDAs. Because that's a thing. So there's that too. So like if the game doesn't get released, like you're still working, but you also still get fired. So like the game industry is way more volatile than you're even thinking it is.
Well,
and it's not even just the QA team. Like it's also just devs.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering whether all of these air quote failures were reflecting poorly, because it's almost like your job is volatile. And
not really.
Okay. Good.
It doesn't. Only reflects like it reflects like poorly on the publisher. It makes the publisher look bad.
I mean, the publishers say some outlandish shit, so that's on them. I just wanted to make sure that
I'm like, it doesn't even really make the studio look bad, because like if we're talking about studios, like you're talking about ones that are like also self-publishing, like or studio or publishers that have studios under them. Like I'm gonna use BioWare because like they're right there, and they were also relevant to a conversation that we're having. BioWare as a studio looks bad because they've had successive failures, but every single one, like everybody who hasn't quit the game industry, those writers who are actually like looking to go somewhere did get hired somewhere else.
All right.
To answer your question more directly, like in the case of Callisto Protocol, so professionally, what I could say in that case, that was more of an example that you often see where someone that's been in the industry for a good number of years has a good portfolio. They start a new studio, they do a new thing. It was like, a part of the Game Awards. People get excited, and yes, publishers will set sales goals, and honestly, from my personal opinion, it feels like a dice roll because I don't know how they gauge things a lot. It depends on the type of game, type of
It's
market, the audience, all that.
it
I don't know.
it's it's like, so because like it's a failure, it's a project management failure. There's always a failure between like projections and realistic. Like they try to be like, okay, this is realistic, right? For like projections, but when you're doing like a project that it covers like the span of 4 years and anything can happen, and they honestly just haven't found a production flexible way of dealing with that. I think a lot of like smaller companies have started figuring that out with more of like by doing kind of like open betas for that last for like years, or like, hey, this game isn't finished, you can like partake in as it progresses, and they pull in money, but they have like budgeted amount of money, they have budgeted amount of labor, they have a scope. The project is always out of scope, but there's like no wiggle room or flexibility for it being out of scope. They don't really just start with the idea that this is going to be more intensive than we think it is, and they
Yeah,
don't like account for that. And I think that's kind of a thing that the game industry in general and probably the tech industry is trying to like figure out a way to work around.
yeah. There, I have published a lot of stuff that has also said that a lot of like dev cost and overhead and stuff like that, and all these things that it, it's not sustainable because the costs keep growing, and it's just general rule of thought where if it doesn't meet goal XYZ, then to shore up our losses, we're going to get rid of all these people, and that's what's been happening, right? In a
The
case of, go ahead, Vegan.
Yeah, it's weird because and I've stated this before, but like the data just doesn't back it up. It's literally just a thing that you do to appease shareholders. And that's specifically in in cases where talent is normally retained, not where they're planning on getting rid of them in general. So like I have to make this distinction. Like companies like Bungie, where they're holding on to people for like 10 years, 5 to 10 years, and it's over and it's not just on one thing, is not the norm. Like usually they just get rid of people. Like even bring in new people for even like when it comes to, they might keep some people around for like DLC, but they'll bring in more people to do DLC, like sort of thing. Like the way that like Bungie was functioning as a company is not the norm. Um uh and again, like some of the others, like the longevity, like they just fire everybody. It's already planned in. So like there's a lot of like part of game dev Twitter was also like talking a lot about how like, oh well, I don't want to buy a house, before COVID. They're like, I don't want to buy a house because I'm going to have to move in 3 years. Because they're like, this game has a projected time of like 3 to 4 years, and I know my job is up then. And they're not even contracted, they're hired, they already know. So they're like, they're having to move all across bounce across the country because they don't have stable work. Like, the game industry is not stable work.
Yeah.
Another, like, I'm sorry, can you refresh the last thing you said, Jeffrey? Just like, so my brain.
What was I saying? Yeah, when sales, when like projected sales fall short, to reduce, like, to reduce the fact that it didn't meet sales that they were projecting, they'll just let go of people.
Yep, there we go. So, but yeah, back to that was on there's actually no data that supports it. You actually cost your money more. You cost your company more money by laying off people, like, actively, because the loss of talent, the loss of, even if you're in an industry, you're like in an industry where like training isn't really a thing, they're still like forming teams and like getting to know people, and like there's a whole integration process. Like, you are actively costing yourself money by laying everybody off and by bringing new people in. And another thing too is, like, when you hire people, you have to pay them more than than the people that you just laid off for the same position.
It's
That's a thing that's also like unique to like our generations, like, this time period rather, because before it was, you could get more money by just like getting promoted, but actually, or staying within the same company, but it's actually better to jump around to different jobs because every 2 years, because that's how you actually get significant pay increases. But what the laying off does, it just appeases shareholders who are like, you fucked up, you didn't make the money you said you're gonna do. What are you gonna do? Well, we laid off all these people. That doesn't actually move the numbers in any meaningful way whatsoever. And there's like a lot of data that continuously proves that. It's kind of wild, actually.
the reading all these earnings reports. It's obviously very obvious. Obviously, it's very obvious. It's clear that these companies, the whole point for these companies is growth, right? And when you're reading these earnings reports and you're getting in the weeds of that, and I've like read these things and looked at all this data, it's clear that yes, they want to appease their shareholders because it looks good when we keep on making money, right? And the thing about when things fall short, other companies that, well, we have more things in the pipeline or what have you, or we'll just who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Sega, because they had that they canceled that Hyenas game, and when they did, they laid off some people, I think, at Creative Assembly, who's normally known for like developing and releasing, Total War, right? That's RTS series. And I think like the CFO of Sega says like, well, they're normally good at RTSs and we're just gonna focus on that. But the thing is, they tried to do something new with the new game. It didn't work out, and the answer was that, okay, well, we're just gonna cancel this and get rid of some of you, right? But the thing is, a lot of that has been happening throughout the year. And again, when these job cuts happen, the thing I always think about professionally is just that immediately, how much this giant company made in the previous year, or you can look at the last quarter. I think of two things actually. How much was made? How much is the CEO getting paid? That those are two things I want people to think about often whenever you see these jobs cuts. Because the thing is, I have, if I'm wrong, then let me know. I have yet to see anything recently that said that, well, to offset this, the CEO will take a pay cut. If I'm not mistaken, I think something like that came up regarding Bungie. I could be wrong. Don't quote me, but it's something that's like, well, to offset these job cuts, is leadership thinking about like getting pay cuts? And I think the answer was no. And well, that's all what happened.
Yeah,
But
I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. They don't have anybody.
you know,
That I'm just like, I'm like, they didn't even lay off like just like the lower they cut everybody across the board, and I'm just like, you cut people that you can't cut when you've got a big DLC coming. I'm like, who you gonna hire? That your remaining staff can't do this.
no,
I was just like, I don't know what's happening. I was just like, okay, guys. Yeah, I've got I said before, I was just like, I got some thoughts on it, and you know, in the case of like Bungie, that it was just, this is just some seriously terrible like business management, just like really awful. And one of the things that really bothers me about like the growth mindset is that there's also nothing that supports that at all. Like there's nothing that supports like this constant it does not work in any practice whatsoever at any time. At some point you stop, you slow down. You can't like, you see this, I'm going to use kind of education as an example.
mm,
So like with accreditations, and like you have to have like X number of graduates every year, but like when you're at 99%, you can't get higher than 99%. Like you can't get higher. You need to have a business model that you need to follow the numerous business models that are successful, by the way, that acknowledge that constant growth doesn't work. There's just periods where you're just gonna be stagnant. There's periods where you're gonna fall, and then there's periods you're gonna have a great year. Like it just be like that. And it's bizarre because like there are large functioning companies that do understand that. I'm not saying they're great. I'm not gonna lie, like no large company is great. That does not exist. As when you have like 5,000 people, it cannot be great. I'm sorry. It can be a better situation than you thought. But there's too much human in that space. But yeah, there's large functioning companies that do understand that, and they're like, oh well, we didn't have a great year, we're not doing mass layoffs, we're just not really hiring anybody right now, which is fine.
yeah,
Or we're just keeping at the numbers that we need.
yeah. The thing about that too is I just seen countless examples of where that earnings, the thing about earnings reports is a big deal, because the thing is that is a company letting the larger public know how well it's performing. And the thing is about this capitalist society is that a lot of these companies are beholden to that. Like, and that's another point I wanted to make people is like, please remember, these are institutions of capitalism. They are not paragons of good. They are not I was about to say they're not your friend as much as whatever the parasocial relationship marketing, however good, however much money they spend on that. They're not. They
However much
are
money they spend on trying to make it look like they're a great company, that is not the case.
right. They are in the business of getting money out of you, and however they want to spin that, hey, we provide great content, yada 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 yada. The thing is that when it's time for those reports, they want to be in the green. And as you're reading through them, you see that a lot of their business model, whatever like it specifically is, they will let you know this is what makes us money, this is what we provide, this is what we know we're good at. And when they're not good at something, those tend to be buried deeper in a report, but
Yes,
it
sir.
will it will say something to the effect of, well, we made a misstep, well, this and that, here's how we fix it. And if in a case of if it's a particular kind of game, if it's new or what have you, it will be, well, we're refocusing thing, or instead of saying layoffs, they'll say restructuring program to again shore up funds
Like,
so their report looks better for shareholders. And the thing with that, and like the poster child of that for the games industry has been Embracer. But the thing in that case is
I
that
don't know the fucking
Embracer, Embracer Group, throughout the years, it did a lot of acquisitions to make the group overall just have different venues of content and revenue sources. But the thing is, they were betting a lot with the business deal they had with the Savvy Game Group. That's the Saudi owned gaming firm. But for whatever reason, that deal fell through, right? But the thing is, that was a $2 billion deal they were really hoping to get,
Yes.
and it fell through. So they announced that restructuring plan. That was like to hit the panic button, essentially, right? Because I don't know what their projections were, but from my reporting and reading, it's just like a lot was riding on that deal. It didn't happen. So long story short, from when they announced that restructuring plan in July till now, that company has laid off nearly 1,000 people and shut down studios, laid off people. That's why Volition no longer exists. Like, think about that. Volition was open. No, Volition was in operation for 30 years. That's a whole adult just
Mm-hmm.
gone. Because like the new, I know the newer Saints Row game had its various problems, but like just think about that, 30 years, just right. But it wasn't the only studio that was shut down and what have you. But like when you think about things like that, it again should reinforce this, like people are beholden to these business decisions. When you read things like, oh, this was a very difficult decision to make or what have you, it's like a lot of times I think about that and who's directly in charge about that. I'm like, but is it? I'm sure you still have your home. You probably got a backyard. My ass don't got a backyard. I'm black and I live in the South, so you imagine what my economic opportunities are like. But anyway,
You live.
I don't
You,
want
li-
to talk about it.
you live in. You live.
you know,
I
you
mean,
know what I'm saying.
you live inside someone's subwoofer, for example. No backyard.
You know,
You live
you
inside
know.
someone's
So but like it's things like that that make you think perhaps how the industry is ran maybe shouldn't be cheerleaded, but the thing is, the games industry is a lot of things. It's a lot of things. It's not just the business stuff like that, but like when you're seeing stuff on MSNBC and CNN, whatever, a lot of it is like the business stuff and how much money it makes, whatever. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about too. It's like you see all that money, but like when you break it down by like these different giant companies and who has most of the money and what have you, it's still at the end of the day, a lot of it is still
Stop
dev
hitting.
cost and making sure the shareholders are happy. But again, it's just like
The technology costs though are
technology. Yeah,
exorbitant.
pipelines, yes, all that.
It's
Right.
exorbitant. Like people like it's one of those. Listen, I am broke. I will not question an increased cost in the actual game product. Like the tech costs that go into some of these games is fucking believable.
Right.
Yep.
And it just keeps increasing. Like it increases every year, which is another like
That's a problem. Yes. No,
it's a
that's legitimately a problem.
it's actually a projection. It's actually like a an issue when you're trying to make your projections because you're like, I know that the tech is going to increase. I know that the tech we're going to use and need is going to increase while we're working on this project, but there's no fucking possible way for us to know how much and in what quantity and in what world events are going to fuck with that shit. Like the way that like the you gotta use some COVID and the supply chain. The way that COVID and the supply chain, which is still fucked up by the way, has like just like fucked up the superconductor cost. What are fucking superconductors for? Servers.
Mm.
They're used in servers. Guess what that meant for live service games and MMOs and all of them? It made them 3 times more expensive. And then do you know what happened with those superconductors? Companies like Nvidia specifically had first priority. Like they're actually like companies had priority on who were getting them first. So if you it's also what happened where it made like buying a pre-made computer like cheaper than building your own, because the people who were the companies that were building the computers and then shipping them to like suppliers, I mean, shipping them to like, you know, the people who sell them, they're getting those first party deals and then selling. So like there's a lot of shit like that that's just not taken into account. And like again, the tech costs are fucking believable. And there's no way to like really do accurate projections of that. You can like kind of like guess. You can be like, well, like, you know, this is how much it increased over these like 4 or 5 years in the past, but this is our current situation now, and who the fuck knows?
Right.
Copper suddenly became super valuable again.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a lot of shit like that. And yeah, like it's like I feel like the games industry is one of those industries that like grew really fast and never figured out like what they need to do to actually be successful.
Yes, it grew fast but inefficient, wildly inefficient.
And I also feel like this is a general tech company problem as well.
Yes.
Like I also throw like
It,
so there's like there's a tech industry, right? I think of the games industry as like a subgenre of the tech industry. So they have like the same issues, but there's some unique stuff to the game industry. I don't know if that makes sense or if it's accurate.
It's one of the reasons why I always question people lamenting, like, you know, there are folks who are like dead set against large scale AAA games and they always want older games. They wonder what happened to certain classics. And I'm like, well, to scale, the classic games you like when you were younger 15, 20 years ago were made by effectively AA development teams, much smaller, much more efficiently made back then. Now it's just out of control. It's not built to give you the things that you're looking for. And that's like, it's barely built to sustain itself. barely.
It can't sustain itself. Like, I mean, there's a reason why Square Enix just let go of like all of their old titles.
Yeah. And
they just said, here, the licenses, feel free. Who wants to pay for them?
We're
not going to do anything with these anymore. Now Embracer has those. I don't know why. Like, this is why I said I don't understand what Embracer was doing, because if you buy up all of those licenses, you buy up half of a company's studios, you buy up additional studios. Why the fuck did you think you were going to be in the green? Do you know how many years it takes to fucking recover from that sort of thing?
I mean, I assume they had
I
handshake.
genuinely don't understand.
They had handshake deals lined up. Also, I would watch the Netflix documentary about how they fucked it up. Both of these things are true. Seemed like they had deals lined up. Is the way, you know. I mean, did it seem like wise at the time? No, but I imagine that's what some white man would tell you in whatever language. They had deals lined up, and they all fell through, especially the biggest one. So here they are.
The thing with acquisitions too is just like largely the thought process is that okay, these people will provide this kind of content, whatever. So that looks overall, that's gonna look good for us as far as our earnings portfolio is going to, look that was the whole thought process.
But it takes years. It's
Right.
not an instant return. You annex for the future, not for the present.
Well,
I'm
you're right.
confused.
Which is why when that $2 billion deal fell through and did not happen, the panic button was hit. And unfortunately, that right there cost 1,000 people their jobs throughout the year. That just Embracer alone. That's not counting everybody else.
That's not counting everybody.
That's not counting everyone else. Regarding the conversation about sustainability, companies are thinking about that, but it's funny is that I've seen that as a conversation as far as like operational sustainability is something that smaller studios have talked about like openly.
Yes.
Like larger companies is like you'll notice that larger companies will have conversations about, well, we're going to these other things. I'll use Ubisoft as an example. It's a game publisher, but you've seen them talk about like we're getting into film and stuff like that. They had Captain they had a Netflix show come out recently because of their entertainment firm.
I literally have only seen Square Enix talk about it when they're not trying to trying to keep their CEO from talking about NFTs.
You're saying, Aaron?
I don't think he's in charge anymore. I think he got ousted.
I forgot the name of the show.
Is that white man still in charge? Also, Aaron, you're coming in low.
Oh, Captain Laserhawk.
Captain Laserhawk, yeah.
The show about Ubisoft creative properties,
intellectual
properties, yes.
Which is funny because that show poked fun at itself in a way I wasn't expecting. It's just like, are y'all just doing this to just like, haha, we poke fun of ourselves? Is this really like commentary or like, probably not really commentary? How you think about yourself? I don't know. Because the whole thing with the board of directors, I kept thinking about, I'm like,
So I think that there are some things that have so little faith in so creative endeavors that have so little faith from the company that they get the accidental creative freedom because they just get like put on an outpost and then they're like, do this show. And then they just, whatever. And it winds up being you had this creative freedom because no one's looking at you. Kind of like the first Miles Morales movie from Sony. Like Sony clearly had no faith in that animated Miles Morales movie. Henceforth, it was wildly creative because they accidentally left everyone alone, abandoned them to make this movie, yada yada, Spider-Man, whatever. And it's like, so it's just like, it seemed like that show was kind of benefiting from that thing, that accidental corporate phenomenon where they have so little faith in you, you get creative freedom, air quotes, incidental creative freedom, because that show is actually really good. And I was like,
yeah, it's surprisingly good. In terms of like using source material, like making meta commentary about the larger entertainment firm and like Rayman snorting coke, which makes sense to the story. I was just like, so y'all didn't look at this? Y'all just like, go ahead and do whatever?
Right, go ahead and do
whatever.
They
did not pay any fucking attention.
Yeah, those shows are their shows are a show of lack of faith from the overarching corporation that is responsible for greenlighting it. They didn't think anything of it. They don't care. And they catch wind of it being good all the way on the back end. They forget that the show, Captain what? Oh. And then they got to go looking through old emails. They got to search Captain Laserhawk on the search bar, see what was said, looking up old threads, going back on Slack.
It's it yeah. Like I went into that not knowing anything, and then I was like, huh, okay. But to go back to the, yeah, I don't the thing that gets me too with these layoffs that I've been thinking about is just that I don't know if there'll be a comprehensive report um regarding the demographics of the people who lost these jobs, because the thing is,
Why would they?
as we right, I know, but like the thing that we know is, like, when you're the last one in the door, you're the first one to go. So I think a lot about, like, even though the games industry is not really great with marginalized people, like I think
No,
about, like, how many of these people,
I actually think about that a lot with Bungie specifically because like, and I know like it's like dunk on Bungie time, and I'm like, well, y'all fucked up. But a really important thing is Bungie had an extremely diverse staff in comparison to the rest of the industry, especially for being a company of their size. They did have a lot of like non-white people. They had a lot of queer people. They had a lot of like disabled people and like trans folks. Like they really had a diverse company, and they like wanted to build around having a diverse company, and they just let everybody go. And I'm just like, push his glasses up. I would like to see them reports.
yeah, it's
I've got the curious.
yeah, it's just, it doesn't leave a lot of I can't even say the word confidence, but it's just like, again, with all these people losing these jobs, it's just like, I don't. It's gonna be funny when, like, they put out reports just, yeah, look at us at diversity, but also we cut like 2,000 people last year.
In
What?
like a month. In October. They spent all of like October through November just laying people off. Uh and again, there's a special layer in hell for people who do it before the holidays because that it's literally taxes. It's the mass layoffs before the end of the year is literally just for taxes. And nobody across the fucking country is doing hiring except for in those like few industries where they're always hiring, and because they always need bodies because desperate. It's like a few like trade specific industries and whatnot. All they don't like hiring doesn't start till February.
Mm.
All them job posts you see from now until January, because we missed the seasonal rush. We're past the seasonal. Once it hits December, it's over until February hits. Then they start hiring for February. All the posts up for now, they're not hiring. Those are just ghost positions.
The more,
Literally
like,
for taxes.
I could not imagine being jobless and having, like, no source of income or support, whether it be from, like, family, community, friends, what have you, and going into the new year,
It's
but the messed up, I absolutely,
it,
I can only imagine.
brother, been there. It sucks.
I think it needs to be said that despite that there's people in this industry who have experienced that a number of times and are
every fucking
still
every
here.
every fucking game they experience
And
it. Every fucking game they've worked on, they experience it.
that is
Yeah, this is another thing that the game industry does. It
bonkers.
it manipulates passion. it's a unique thing with the games industry, because you don't go into the game industry unless you fucking love video games. And a lot of people will stay there through the abuse, because there's a lot of abuse throughout this industry. Like, it's actually kind of known for it. It's and not saying that, like, it's unique from like other industries, but it's especially bad. Like, it's pretty bad. In terms of like how many hours you're expected to work, the things that you're expected to do if you're a marginalized person, like the things that you encounter. And it specifically takes a hold over your passion. So like, you fucking love video games, and you fucking love being like having your name on the credits and being able to look and be like, I fucking did that. This is me doing what I love, but also living in abject hell. It only to get laid off right before fucking Christmas. Like, it's actively taking over passion. And and that is the reason why folks leave after 3 to 6 years.
Right.
Another thing I did want to bring up, because like this whole thing is like the thing with like the layoffs is so multi-layered, and like I've been meaning to bring this up, and I feel like I like touched on it before but never went into it. Like, there is an active pushback right now to labor as well. Like, this isn't like some of this is also just not, hey, we're trying to make shareholders, we're trying to look good. Some of this is one of those things that sounds like a conspiracy, but it's not. It's actually a union busting technique, and there's historical precedent for this. This is a thing that happens. They are actively trying to lower the wages of workers while also trying to exert control over workers. This is like it's literally like when listen, what was it? Is it a Business Insider or was it Fortune who we were talking about the other day? I'm like, they've been on one lately. It was like, I'm like, y'all been pro labor and I'm confused. It was one of the financial news platforms that has been continuously posting like pro labor stuff, and I'm like, what? What? Like pro union things, but I will have to remember what it is before it's had me shook. But like talking with like inflation right now, right? The increase in inflation has been manufactured. It's not natural causing inflation. It's folks just jacking up the prices for no reason.
I found out before, so I found out like, I think around maybe before 2010, like I just found out like some food industries were like, no, let's raise up the prices of eggs. Like not that's not counting now. That's not counting like how much a carton of eggs are now. Like I forget exactly the details, but pretty much it's like, no, we're gonna raise that up, pimp. I was just like, hey man, wow.
Yes, guess what they did over COVID? And continued to do, like, multiple. And like, I know it's one of those things that sounds like conspiracy level, but like, it's not. Like, there's you can actually find actually pretty easy easy to find information on multiple outlets like talking about it. Like, it's not, this is like, it's the prices aren't going up because of like actual inflation. Like, this is just it's greed. But the same thing is happening with labor. Like, there's been collective organizing occurring, and this is and unionization and like a push for unionization that's been occurring throughout the tech industry and throughout the game industry. And there's been massive pushbacks, and not just around like there's been like, this has been the fucking year for labor collective action. It's been so great. Like, the last like couple, this year especially, the last year, so good. Um, but like this is an active pushback against it. Like that is happening.
Yeah, there have been reports of laying off teams at various studios and places where they were making pushes for unionization. So yeah, that falls under the label of union busting. It's not funny. I'm not laughing like haha. I'm laughing like yeah, that's not good. Um, you know what's funny? Not funny, haha, just funny sad. It's that despite the fact that
Forbes.
it's been
Sorry, it was Forbes.
oh Forbes. Oh wow, okay.
Forbes.
Oh
Forbes
wow.
has gone pro labor.
It's that despite things like pay being notoriously bad and a lot of obviously we're talking about like Western in the US like game development, but like these studios being located in expensive locations and pay just stinks for people who aren't in I forgot who exactly I was talking to, but like I was talking to someone and they were explaining to me like, you know, their career and stuff like that. And I was just sitting there, I was thinking, I'm like, so this person lives where? And then I was just like, and while they were explaining, my brain was doing well, I'm just sitting in the back of the class just listening to a lecture. And then I was just like, damn, so you've like went through this period, you're probably making this much. I don't know how you were getting by to get where you are now. It is a miracle you are here. But I didn't say all that. I in my head I just thought, okay, I know. Man, it's again, you know, I go back like if anyone if I was say I was like on MSNBC and they were asking me about like what I think about all these job cuts in gaming. It's like again, I would just have to refer to, you know, how much did this massive company make last year? How much is the CEO getting paid? And with these two things in mind, how does that necessitate however many people's jobs are being cut? And with these people's jobs being cut, not everybody gets a severance package.
Yeah, no.
Words.
And guess what? If you're a contracted employee, you don't get shit. You don't get shit because contracted employees generally don't have rights unless they're going through an employment agency, and then their stuff is through the employment agency, and if they don't, and there's not severance from employment agencies in generally,
Right.
and that's if strong if.
Yeah. And it's these things I think about is like these are things I want people to really just think about and observe before they really put themselves in this because this is a very real possibility. I honestly do not really see it changing. Again, there are smaller studios whom, oddly enough, ran by marginalized people whom work on sustainability, who account for these things, who like keep who have like multiple projects, but they're built where their previous project will fund their next project. So they're like not in a position where they'll lay off people. But you know, again, it's just like if I was talking to someone, they really wanted to get into it, I was like, are you aware of all these things? They say yes. I'm like, are you really aware of all these things? Did you study what it might look like? Because I would then tell them, I don't want you to be out in the middle of Techland in California. You just lost your job, and this house that you live in with three other people, now you can't pay rent. I don't know what's gonna happen to you, pimp, but I'm worried. I don't want you to be in that kind of position. That's what I would honestly say to somebody before they think about doing this now. Like, especially now what I know reporting, I was like, please think about this.
Yeah, I really wanted to. I wanted to do character art design for games. Absolutely the fuck not. I looked in. I really did some research. I looked into it. I more than just the pay. I was like, what's the education? What's gonna be the cost of the education? What's gonna be the likelihood of getting hired out of college? Getting into it, the competitiveness is fucking wild. Um, you generally have like absolutely bonkers. You usually have to work some real shit stuff in order to like get and do some networking to like get in there. And then once you're in there, enter a conversation we've had the last hour. And I went, no, I'm okay not doing it. You know what I will do? I will use my character brain for, like, playing tabletop games with my friends.
It's just that's why like it's not throwing any shade. That's why like part of me like with the game awards or whatever. It's like stuff like that. I honestly can't really be excited. Like what's really being celebrated? No, truthfully, like I want someone to like. I'm a reporter. I do this for a living. What's really being celebrated?
I don't get it either because most of the games like are only from like the last 6 months. And any game that comes out in January doesn't get counted, and any game that comes out in November and December doesn't get counted.
True.
I mean, like games don't stop coming out. And
Right.
so it's like, okay, we have best indie game. And I'm like, okay, but the best indie game actually came out in December. Where does it go? Nowhere.
Yeah,
So
that's another thing.
from the time that from like the the nominations date forward, like the deadline for nominations forward, they don't count that amount of time. And then like anything that comes out early in the year just gets forgotten about. Like I still say that Octopath Traveler 2 is like one of the best games of the year, period.
Yeah, it's just like,
I mean, shit, Alan Wake 2, Jesus.
and I don't like. Yes, I understand
And that's not
all
even getting into
these.
the indie games.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's another conversation. Like I understand all these games came out and a lot of them are really good creative feats and what have you, and people put their foot in it, all that stuff. Yes, I get all that.
It
There,
also
there's
doesn't
there's
equal more money for people.
there's that there's that. I think about things like that, but again, it's just like we are talking about an industry that saw 10,000 people lose their jobs,
Right? Who's the
and like
award for?
if if I was there and I accepted the award, honestly, dog, don't give me no podium, don't give me no mic, because I'll be very honest. I'll be like, I'll honestly tell people, I'm just here for appearances. I ain't gonna hold you. This is gonna be super short. All my homies lost their jobs. Thanks for the support, I guess. I'm out. Peace. That's it.
Right? Like who is it? Who is it? It feels like a circle jerk for no reason.
I
Who
don't.
like who's it for?
It's the thing about that show. And again, it's no shade. Like I know a lot of people are excited for it. The thing is, it's. I can say this as a professional. A lot of these shows do operate like a big song and dance for the industry, for like news and advertisement, and it's also opportunity for like new games to show up. It's like the industry like waving its pom poms for itself. That's really what these things are. Again, whether or not that's a good or bad thing depends on who you are. For me, it's just that ever since I became a journalist, I see a lot of these things as like massive shows of advertisements, and the things you've probably noticed that when I'm on Discord, I'm be like, because that's how I feel now. It's just like, okay, I can watch trailers when I'm not working, I guess. But to
I'm
me, it's just like,
I'm not gonna lie. Like that's kind of all of us. I think the only ones that we actively watch is the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
I
Nintendo has a
can't.
way. Nintendo has a way of sliding in indie games and things that I want like right in, like at the minute of completion of the Nintendo Direct. It's like you look and there's just something of interest. So yeah, those are the best ones. Otherwise, no, the rest of them we skip. We skip them.
Yeah, I don't think I think outside of the Nintendo Directs, like we just be looking at highlights. Be like, what's coming out this year? Like, I do not care.
I like the I like the mental gymnastics of like when Microsoft has their showcases and every single game is on Game Pass and everyone in the comments is like really gnashing their teeth over spending like full prices for all these games, and I'm like, you all realize this is Netflix, guys. Please just do it or don't do it. That's the point of this. And the mental gymnastics always make me laugh. Just kind of looking at the comments, I get a kick out of people really gnashing their teeth over it, and I'm just, all right, guys. But
Yeah, my favorite is like when Sony be like, "This is here's our games coming out on Sony," and I'm like, "But five of those are on Game Pass."
Oh, yeah, Sony come out there and just be acting like every game is a PlayStation exclusive, though. They just be out here acting like Big Macs.
It's
and
very
Whoppers.
funny. I'm like,
yo, they claim,
okay,
bro. Sony claims everything, though. That's my fucking.
I'm like,
Sony,
where's
But that's
the
not part of the thing. But things like that, I could say like that's just a part of.
it's marketing.
Again, it's just a part of marketing. That's just them. It's like, well, our offerings are XYZ and yada yada yada. You know, the exception to what I just said though about these shows is that except when it's like except when it's a case of like if it's a show or thing and it's like very like region specific, or if it's something I'm not familiar with, then I'll be like, oh, what's this? Like if it's like an indie showcase for like when there's that indie showcase specifically for Caribbean developers, or I think it's like Sony when they're doing a showcase of like games being made by like Chinese game developers and things like that. That I tend to look into because again, the big giant shows for the Western ones, I'm just like, it's over yet.
Yeah, I don't care.
Just, all right, but yeah, I don't know. And again, I know it makes me sound like a hater, but that's in my bio anyway. So take it or leave it. But it's,
I mean, this is a team of professional haters.
You're not a hater. You've just been around games for a long time. Is that many legs of the hype machine just don't. They literally just slide off your back.
True. The hype machine doesn't work.
It doesn't work the way it used to.
Yeah,
and you have a job, and you have a job quantifying the game industry and critiquing it and observing it. Ain't no way. Nothing works on you. That's why I don't even talk to you about games, even though you work, even though you read about them all day. You're in there.
Y'all know what's funny about that? It's just like I'm gonna say this on a podcast. So the thing is that I'll just be minding my business and someone will tag me in a trailer or something like that. It's like, hey, have you seen this? And then I'm like, yes, 6 hours ago. But I don't say that. I'll be like, interesting. But I won't say like, yeah, I saw it earlier today because I was literally like scouring the internet for news. And it's like, but I appreciate the gesture. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, oh, okay, that's nice. Thank you.
They are. Bless their heart.
That's true,
they
man.
are thinking of you.
That's trolling.
Yeah.
And not your job.
They're trolling. That's
No,
trolling.
They are thinking about you, and they're trying to be like they're trying to say like I was thinking about you, and I saw this, and I wanted to share this with you, not realizing that your job makes that you already have.
Lesson of the program, since the shows have lessons, is if you know someone in a particular profession, do not send them news bits of the profession that they're already shoulder deep in. Leave them be. If your friend,
I was gonna say, if you want, you can ask them about it.
Ask some questions first, but do not
like
send. Do
questions, not and that question. I mean, did you see this? To be like, hey, I don't understand this. Can you explain it for my non-expert brain?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What's funny as well is that when I've also said in other discourses, it's like, please do not keep tagging me on like things like this, like because I've already explained. I already bombard myself with information. Like I swim in it daily for hours. I'm good. You don't need to tag me on stuff like this.
Also, do they
NBA mess. I'm here for NBA mess. Yes, tag me always. NBA mess. Let's do it.
Also, thick women.
So anyway, we're gonna We're just gonna move on that comment.
If you see a thickie, especially if they got the Naruto cloud motif, I cannot remember.
First of all, no. Yo, I was on Twitter and someone was just like, "Oh my god, Akatsuki lingerie." I'm like, "Ma'am, you are
Yes,
beautiful. Don't, no,
yes.
no,
Tag
no."
him, tag him on every thickie wearing a Katsuki motif.
You know what's bad? You know what's bad? Somebody who's
The bigger the thighs, the better.
like you ain't said no lies, but like somebody whom I follow, like, yes, they're very attractive, and I enjoy the photos that they take. But anyway, long story short, it's just like I saw them wearing like Akatsuki stuff, and I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna fold like a house of cards. Oh man. Anyway,
Here to help, here to troll.
thank you, Bacon. But anyway, I think we should wrap this up.
Before I find another way.
After Bacon just put me out there like that, but I feel like people who know me already know this. But if you didn't know, yes.
I don't
So
see. I don't see why this is something that we can't pursue as a community. Like, round asses and thick thighs are delightful.
What was it I was saying in the Discord? I was just like, bless whoever at Vanilla Wear has a thigh fetish.
Right.
Oh my god, man! That
there's a new Vanilla Wear coming out.
what's it called? Unicorn. Unicorn something, right?
Yeah,
Unicorn something.
So it was really funny because Aaron was just like, I don't know about this because I don't see the art style in it. Like, this seems like it has less of the art style.
Yeah.
I opened up the trailer.
Yeah, I was saying.
And you saw it.
Yes.
And I took screenshots of characters, and I was
boy.
because I was like, no, here's how it is. They will not. So, one, they armor people who wear heavy armor appropriately, regardless of gender.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, like if it's a lady and they're in plate mail, they're in plate mail. Like, big lady in plate mail. So like that's one thing. Like, but if it is a no clothing character, regardless of gender, they are in no clothing. And children are excluded from this period. They do not sexualize children like that at all across the board, which is something I actually really like about them and their art, the way that they put that art style. So I went through frame by frame and I was like, I got you of this trailer. Now, the funny thing is I don't know if people remember this about me. I don't watch trailers.
Right.
So
right.
I was just like, there's thickies, and Aaron's just like, where are you getting this? And I'm just like, the trailer. And he's like, you opened a trailer, and then it's just like screen grabs of like sections of the trailer.
You understand that's the respect and reverence we have for round asses here in this operation. Is that Bacon, who does not watch a single trailer for anything, under any circumstances, had to give it a once over so we can confirm the presence of historically relevant thighs and ass cheeks for the community, just in case we were worried they were missing from the product. I was going to get it anyway, so if it was there, I would have found it. But Bacon wanted to make sure that I could rest safely.
I just wanted to make sure that my dear friend and colleague had going in knowing that his tastes were there.
I mean, I appreciate you. That is friendship.
Well, that's real friendship. Well, I don't think we can end on a better note. So, final thoughts that I've had. Yeah, if you see something and you're like, it makes the brain itch, chances are there's probably this is not good, or there's something to be seen here. So also, before I go, one last thing I want to say: if you want to see a good mini series, Pluto on Netflix is really good. I do not know why they did not advertise that thing. It is a really good like animated series. I would describe it, but I don't want to take away what you'll get out of it. So it's like 6 episodes. They're like an hour. Animation's really good voice acting.
Genre?
Um, it's I would describe it as a anime mystery and political intrigue. Uh, yeah, it's like it starts off like a crime drama, then becomes like a mystery, then like it just opens up as the chapters go, and the acting is like really good, and the voice cast like I was about to say something about that. I'll kind of give away like his role, and I don't want to do that. But like a black famous voice actor is in there. Y'all could take a wild guess who that is. Yes, it's really good. I really like how episode one ends. So I think Bacon will really like it. So yeah, Pluto's really dope. I don't know if I'll see Godzilla this weekend, but thank you, Bacon, for reminding me. I might tomorrow. I don't know. I
Go
heard it
see
was
it.
really good.
Yeah,
I heard it
Godzilla
was really
minus
good.
one. It's supposed to be fantastic, and honestly, I have no other expectations other than fantastic. Um, I will say, like, so this is again the Japanese storytelling of Godzilla. This is
Mm,
not people. I've said this. People have this misunderstanding. They're like Godzilla, giant kaiju, just destroying everything, and I'm like, it's much more. It is always much more about that. Godzilla is always generally a metaphor, and the
mm,
story always is centered around the people. So it
mm,
is always a story about people first and foremost, and Godzilla is a metaphor for a lot of things. Like I don't know what exactly it is specifically for minus one because I'm trying to keep myself from being less spoiled.
yeah,
But
me
like,
too. Yeah.
the like Shin Godzilla, it was it was about the earthquake and the tsunami and the reactor, and so like it was sorry, I cannot remember at all what that event was called. Um, but the way that the movie had done is it showed Godzilla in phases. So like in the first phase was like the earthquake. The next phase was the tsunami. The next phase was like was symbolizing the reactor. And then it was actually a very strong commentary on the on both the how the Japanese government mismanagement, but also the effects of the treaties and on international response and how the it like other countries both view and have treated Japan historically and what would probably happen and what and how they did also in that crisis situation. So again, it's about the people and not monsters, which is such a fucking narrow just western viewpoint that like drives me up a fucking wall. People be like,
Mm.
I'm just here to see monsters and I'm like, don't go.
Did you? Did you see Godzilla versus Kong? Probably not, given
No,
that
I watched.
comment.
I've seen every Godzilla movie
Oh, okay,
multiple times.
okay. Where? Respect.
I really like Godzilla. It's actually
Yeah.
one of the things I did like about the latest U.S. movies because I felt like out of the Western interpretations, I felt like equating with climate change was
Mm,
actually like one of the better Western interpretations they've done.
mm, mm,
If that makes sense. Like it wasn't just like they specifically didn't make it, oh, it's just monsters fighting monsters. Like there was actual like they were trying to go for the metaphor, but Western audiences just
yeah.
don't catch that part. And also Western metaphors aren't really they don't metaphor storytelling is not really our forte.
Mm,
Not very good at the whole symbolism thing.
me.
Not
Yeah.
not our greatest like all the movies that are really good at that are either like they're generally not produced by white people. Just putting that out there. Or if they are, it's like by a woman, and it's like very like French inspired.
All right.
I'm saying controversial things.
Drink your water, read a book, and get plenty of sleep.
Mind your business on the internet.
Eat some fucking food and go to the goddamn bathroom.
If you see a nice ass, share it with your loved ones. Thank you guys for listening. Have a pleasant day.
Go ahead, stand up, stand up, stand up.